Hi, everyone. This is Kumar Datatran with Agile Meridian. Welcome to this episode of the Agile Short, where we're going to be talking about one of the professional Scrum competencies, understanding and applying the Scrum framework. I think the last time we did an Agile Short, it was for another competency, and we're kind of focused on these competencies from a product owner perspective. So, what is, from a product owner perspective, how do you apply these competencies? And so we're kind of running through a series of these videos to provide some of our insights. What we think. Not that we're the experts or anything, but just our thoughts on the topic. So what do you think, Jolly, on understanding and applying the Scrum framework?
Yeah. So PSPO, the certification that we talked about focuses on multiple competencies in the product, in the Scrum area, right? And this is one of the basics. The underpinning of PSPO is still Scrum, as it was defined much before and updated in November 2021 as part of the latest Scrum guide, right? So that still remains the same. I apologize. That should be November 2020, not November 2021. I skipped a whole year there.
So COVID.
Yeah, it's COVID. Yeah. I spent an extra year at home, which I just remember.
There you go.
So the Scrum principles and the Scrum guide still guide the PSPO process. So a part of that is understanding what Scrum stands for, the values, the principles, and the competencies that lie behind it. So that's where this comes from.
Right, and there are a lot of sort of focus areas within this competency, understanding and applying the Scrum framework. We're not going to cover them all in this video, but we're going to cover the ones that we think are the most relevant, most important from a product owner perspective, and that is the idea of empiricism, the Scrum team itself, as the product owner being a part of that Scrum team. What role do they play, and how do they ensure that the team is moving at the right pace, building the right things and building them right? And finally, this idea of this of what it means to be done. And so maybe we'll start with empiricism. What is this? What is empiricism, Jolly?
Yeah, so Kumar and I had a brief discussion about this before, and it is as direct as it sounds, even though it makes it look like a verb. Scrum is an empirical process, right? I mean, there's a lot of reliance on what happened before, what the data that what happened in the past gives you is a good indicator of where it goes next. So what data can we get from the previous sprints, if you had them, this previous releases, if you had them, and the roadmap that you had before? All of this provides you data that you can use to develop your next version, the next sprint, the next big release, right?
Yeah, exactly. And really, it's the empiricism, as you put it, it's about looking at the past that helps you guide the future. It's about learning from what you've done in the past. How have the experiments that you've implemented worked out for your customers? What kind of feedback have they given you? As a product owner, these are the kinds of things that you want to be thinking about, using empirical data, empirical knowledge to guide future events. What is most important for the customer next for you to try and put in front of them, especially when you're in product development and you're building tangible products that people touch, feel, and use. Or if you're building internal products for your internal teams to use, it doesn't matter. It's really about relying on your knowledge of the past and building some learning and some ideas to try in the future.
Yeah, this might be a shameless plug, Kumar, but for the IC Agile certified APO course that we have, we focus a lot on the customer outcomes and the business impact that it has, which has leading and lagging metrics associated with them, which is a good indication of what you just mentioned, which is how has it performed in the past.
Yeah.
the features or releases that we created, did that produce the desired business impact or the desired customer outcome? If the metrics don't indicate that it did, why did we really do it? And
Right.
how did that influence the next set of features that we work on, right? So that is an important factor for the product owners. I mean, we obviously, for the scrum masters, there are a lot of metrics that they rely on, but for the product owner specifically, these are really good indicators on what you should focus your time.
Yeah. Totally agree. And really, if you take the word Scrum and Agile out of the conversation, isn't empiricism something we all should be embracing, right? Regardless of the role that we play. You know, we're directors, we're managers, we're just employees, we're developers. Empiricism is such a powerful concept in that it helps you focus on what's worked in the past. What can you learn from the past, the things that you've done in the past, and how can you apply that learning to the future? So it's not something that's just an Agile thing. It should be something that we all do on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it has definitely had an impact on my professional life for sure, without maybe even me realizing it. Right? I mean, what I was doing 10 years ago is so totally different from what I'm doing right now. And probably looking for the same impact or the outcome. Probably, right? We are working with different clients, so we are all trying to kind of get their agility and impact their transformation. But we are doing different experiments now to ensure that they are having that desired outcome and impact.
Right, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next focus area in this competency that we're going to be talking about today, and that is the Scrum Team. So
there's a lot of confusion about this, right, Kumar?
Probably not. I think this should be
who's out. How many can there be?
You know, the Scrum Guide has changed recently, and before that, it had been pretty static for a long time. You know, what does a Scrum team include? And we get these questions a lot. Is it, you know, what's the number of people on a team? Does it include the product owner and the Scrum Master? Does it not include the product owner and Scrum Master? What's your take on this, Jolly?
Yeah, so my two constants in that is the product owner and the Scrum Master, right? The rest of the team is whoever it takes to deliver value, in my opinion. And every team may not need developers. Even though I am not one of those, I have not seen many of those teams. Every team may not need a developer. I have seen teams which are configuring custom, off-the-shelf products.
Yeah.
Right?
COTS products.
COTS products, right? And they don't need developers all the time. All they are doing is configuration tweaks to the COTS product. So it is one thing to mention that, hey, we need developers, but that may not be always the case. But what we need is a product owner and a Scrum Master and whoever it takes to get the job done. There could be developers, there could be testers, there could be automation testers, there could be performance engineers. And there could be security engineers who can make sure that the product is secure enough. So there are a lot of people who come together who make the software development process happen if it is a software development team, and that is my team, right? So it is not strictly product owner, Scrum Master, and developers and testers. That used to be the concept maybe like 10, 15 years ago. But I think that has evolved to a place where it is who would it take to get the proper job done.
Yeah, it's really about the work. You know, what is it? What kind of skills do you need to get the work done? Whatever the product goal is, it may not be product development per se. The product could be something other than software. And so Scrum has been used in so many different industries and contexts. But in terms of the Scrum team, it's really that what you mentioned: the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the team. And the team can consist of roles that, again, based on what the product is. You know, it could be drafting legislation in a law firm, and that's the Scrum team. It's a product owner, which is the chief lawyer or whatever, and someone that's more of the facilitator of the process to draft this, the legal documents or whatever it might be, and the team of lawyers that are working together to do this, and paralegals and researchers and whatever, that's our take on the Scrum team. It could apply to many more contexts than software.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guidance on the size of the team has also changed, right? I mean, it used to be 7 plus or minus 2, so which goes from 5 to 9, and now the Scrum guide says less than 10.
Right.
So the guidance itself has changed, and there has been an enormous amount of studies which tell you the optimum size. Every study obviously tells you a different size, but there has been a Harvard HBR review study which said the size might be 5, might be good. Right?
Yeah.
So there are different opinions on this. Our experience, Kumar, I think you will agree with me, has been that the smaller it is, the better it is.
Yeah.
Right? But there's also a minimum threshold beyond which it is not viable to have a team per se. So most of the teams, effective teams, are somewhere between 5 and 10, as far as I have seen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the as you start getting into the higher single digits, you start to lose something in terms of the teaminess of the team. So between 5 and 6 seems like the sweet spot, the magic spot, where you have enough people to really be productive, but not so many that you start forming almost like little sub teams within this larger team of 9 or 10 people.
Right.
Not to say that 9 people or 10 people is a huge team. It isn't. It's a lot of conversations to keep up with.
Yeah, and we used to say that the number of conversation path between people kind of exponentially rises at some point, right? And that was in the real world.
Yeah.
Right? Now we are all remote, where either these conversations are not happening because the number of people are going up, or if it is happening, it is very difficult to have them because the number of people are way too high.
Yeah, that's right.
So there is a great argument, even a bigger argument in this remote work environment, that the team sizes are as small as possible.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. The impact of COVID and, the impact of COVID is, as we all know, has really changed work as we know it. And it's probably here to stay, right? People are going to be remote, at least for or hybrid, for the foreseeable future, maybe forever. Mm-hmm. And thinking about teams and what that does to teams and teaminess, I think that's a really good point, that, a focus to keep teams small is only going to be a good thing for the people that are part of the team, because it's easier to keep in touch with the people that they work with. Yeah. It's much harder if the team has 12 people, spread across all different time zones. And I think what happens there is people just lose touch. They're just not aware. Yeah.
And I know at least 7 or 8 companies, including some of the big ones, who have planned to go 100% remote. They have no plans of coming back. Forget the pandemic. They have no plans of coming back, which would be hugely impactful for their everyday life, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, even in our case, our little team, our little gang of 4 partners, right? We just added a partner, and when we have someone helping us from a marketing standpoint, we're a team of 5. And when we went from 4 to 5, it's still rippling through our team. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and the one thing I remember when you said that, great point, Kumar. One thing I remember when you said that is, if you look at our chat space, chat window, the rise in number of messages after one more person joined is not linear, right? It is a clear indication of how much it went up. Today morning, when I first, or at around 10 a.m., I had almost 100 messages in our chat window.
Yeah.
Right. And that isn't just in one chat space. Yeah. Imagine the other rooms that we have. How much?
That's true. That be, right? That's true. So
yeah. It is a huge problem when the number of people go up.
Right. So the lesson here in all this is keep your team small, people.
Exactly.
All right. And the last point we want to go over today, the last focus area for this competency is done. What does it mean to be done? You want to take this first, Jolly?
Yeah. What does it mean to be done? What does it mean to be done? And maybe done.
Done, done, done.
When I started the agile journey, like late 2007, 2008, in that time frame, the first thing I heard was this: how many definitions of done do we have? And I was genuinely perplexed as to what that meant.
Yeah.
But I realized it was a joke, and what people really meant, what the definition of done means for different people, right? So the important thing of definition or defining what done means for your team is that everyone should agree to that. Everyone in the team should agree to that. We talked about teams before, and everyone in the team should agree and understand and abide by what that definition of done means.
Right.
The product owner has a vested interest in this, and that is because definition of done almost directly correlates to the quality of your work.
Yeah.
And we all know, and we don't have to go over the theory, that the later you fix or find quality issues, the more expensive it is.
Sure.
Right. So one of the core things about the sprint way of doing our work and the agile way of doing our work is that we build quality in. And the definition of done is a direct contributor to how good that building of the quality is.
Yeah. It's interesting. The Scrum.org and the Scrum Guide, I believe it says the definition of done can start or should start at the organizational level. The organization defines what definition of done is, which causes a lot of confusion. At least it has for me a little bit, because I've always thought of it as being a team construct, that they come up with the definition of done. But the PSPO, the PSM exam, that'll be, if that's a question on there, the right answer is organization. If one doesn't exist at that level, then the team creates it. Which I don't know. I I tend to think it should go the other way, bottom up. That was an interesting learning for me, at least from a PSPO standpoint.
I can certainly find a case for that, maybe at a program level, right? So imagine one product which has like 3 or 4 teams in it.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that the product by itself should have one definition of done, which applies across the board, because otherwise everyone will have different sense of what quality means.
Sure.
But individual teams, depending on what they do, could add to it, right? So that they accommodate their not special cases per se, but their special scenario, or their the work that they do differently compared to the other teams in the same program, right? Yeah. So they could add to it, but it makes sense to have a common definition of done in that respect. But the whole organization, it is a bit difficult, right? And it will be very sparse. Otherwise, it will, for a company, for a small company, that's probably okay. For a big company, it becomes difficult to do that.
Yeah, it'd be too general. It'd be, like you said, very, very sort of like almost like a scaffold with not much in there, with teams can start to fill it out. Right. But I think maybe that was the intent with the Scrum Guide and the Scrum.org guidance, is that there should be something, especially at the product level where multiple teams are working on the same product, some sort of a template that can be modified and used by each team if they need to, or they can just use it as is.
So as an example, I would say that at the end of the sprint, if the product decides that all code will be deployed to staging, let's say, right? Staging environment and integrated. That is not something that the teams can decide individually themselves,
That's
right?
a good point.
So it can make sense in that respect. But the teams can say, okay, I am going to do this, but I am also going to make sure that my performance is validated. Performance is, and I
Yeah.
have solved all the performance issues. Right.
Right.
Not to say that other teams shouldn't worry about performance, but I was making a random example.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, that should be a wrap for. I mean, there's more focus areas, of course, and I encourage that you go to the scrum.org site and look up the competency and look at the other focus areas. We probably have another video on some of the other competencies in the scrum.org framework, the Scrum framework itself. But for today, unless you have any other final thoughts to share, Jolly?
Oh no, this has been great. We will continue down this path in the upcoming weeks.
Yep.
We love sharing this with you. We'll put a link to the competencies in the show notes so that you can get to that pretty quickly.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for joining me again, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Bye.